Okay, hello. I'm Toe Grinder. Mana Gem has been getting a lot of buzz recently, especially combined with this whole like new opener buzz that's kind of being over exaggerated and blown out of proportion by a lot of content creators. But actually, not like a huge amount has changed. People like Echo and Liquid played Harmony early on, despite the two sitting really close because Funnel and Execute are usually really good and they're important. They're hard to find profiles. Despite that, like some people did play Gem. Methods Mage, Bjarder, some of you might know, played Gem. Poor Mohead Guide Rider is a big Gem fanboy, and if you've been watching my stream, I played Gem on a few bosses as well. So in the Mage community, there have been like some optimizations made around Gem and Opener and things like that, but nothing that is like super game breaking. I think people are just riding a hype wave a little bit. I think that what's happening is that people are realizing that Vault fight design isn't super friendly to Harmony like previous raid designs would be. So there's a lot of bandwagoning, overreactioning, so I'm kind of making this video to explain where both talents are good and the situations where you would play one or the other. So if we start off with Arcane Harmony, it gives you more barrage damage, it gives you better funnel, it gives you better execute. The problems are it gives you less choice on when you barrage, so this means you have less room to make mistakes. So for example, if you start stacking Harmony too early, you might reach a point where you've got 20 Harmony stacks, you don't have enough mana to sustain Arcane Blasting all the way up to your burn, but if you barrage, then you might not have enough time again to regain those Harmony stacks. And in turn, that gives you less control over where you spend resources without making concessions. So if you have 20 Harmony stacks and your burst is coming up soon, you don't want to barrage because you'll need to rebuild stacks or you have to burst light stacks, and you might not even have the necessary resources to rebuild those stacks. This can be bad, for example, if you need to kill a really high priority mob in the next second or two, like the blue side mob on Razageth, and Execute Barrage is the highest damage spell you have available, and like you might just have to send it or make a concession in your damage. So if we look at the advantages of Gem, so it's better burst damage, less ramp up time because you don't need to stack Harmony. You are less dependent on Barrage, and which in turn gives you more control over your resources, which means you avoid all of the awkward situations that I just mentioned in the Harmony section. Gem also technically gives you more control over your other talents because you only need to put 1 point into Gem, whereas it takes 4 points to reach Harmony. There's not a huge amount of things that you can do with this right now, but we have seen some optimizations where people put 1 point in Gem and then you can get Enlightened for extra mana regen, and then you can put 2 points in here, which you normally wouldn't be able to do with Harmony. So if we find out some other talents are overtuned, it makes it a lot easier to swap into those talents like we did with Savant with Gem than it is with Harmony. Okay, so if we are to actually compare the two talents, let's put ease of play aside for a second. If something does enough damage, it doesn't matter how awkward or painful to play it is, like people are going to play it. So let's pretend that that advantage doesn't exist, even though it is a very legitimate advantage right now. So really, you're choosing on the Harmony side, you've got better Execute and Funnel, and on the Gem side, you've got better burst damage. The most important thing that I think people ignore whenever they're comparing the talents is that regardless of which talent you take, you have Execute anyway, you have Funnel anyway, and you have some of the best burst damage in the game anyway. You're not gaining any of these things, you're just improving them. There's been a pretty significant design change in Vault of the Incarnates whenever it comes to DPS and phase changes and how those things interact. In Shadowlands, DPS stops were super common because if you had a really tight final phase, for example, Painsmith or Fate Scribe, DPS outside that phase didn't make that phase go any faster, but that phase would have had a DPS check. So what ended up happening was everyone would just stop DPS before they entered that phase, get as much cooldowns as possible, and then push the boss into that phase. So Blizzard have very intentionally moved away from this type of design. If you look at the fights this tier, like Razageth, Broodmother, Kurog, that get really tight towards the end of the fight, it's not only the last phase damage that matters. Every point of damage, except like phase 1 on Razageth, helps kill the boss faster. So the downside of this for Arcane Harmony is that in turn it makes Execute damage worse, because now, rather than only damage in the last phase mattering to kill the boss, damage everywhere matters to kill the boss. This is ultimately like a good change for the health of the game because people were figuring out that DPS stops were really good. So I would expect this kind of design to continue, but the downside of that is Harmony is just going to be worse because of it. All Execute damages. Okay, what do I recommend in Raid? So I'm going to preface this with if you look at the top 3 guilds in the world, Echo, Limit, or Liquid, and Method, you can find one of their mages that played Harmony or Gem in the Race to World First on every single boss this tier. Both are completely fine. In addition to that, I think top logs are just going to move very slowly because the two are very close and people are used to Harmony. That said, my recommendations are this. So on Aeronog, Harmony, you need to delay your cooldowns anyway because of the awkward timing when the ads spawn, so you get to stack Harmony for free, and in turn you get to line it up with the first set of ads, but it's kind of a meme boss. Teros, I think if you're getting Blessing of Summer, you should play Gem, and you should try and use your cooldowns before every Annihilate. And if you're not getting Blessing of Summer, you should stack Harmony on pull and then use your cooldowns after Annihilation. So play Harmony if you're not getting Summer. Primal Council, both of them are kind of whatever. It's a bad boss for Arcane and it's a meme boss. Senarth, Arcane Barrage doesn't cleave off the boss, whereas Arcane Echo hits most of the platform because the boss is a really big hitbox. So having more damage in your touch window is much better on that boss. On Dathia, I think both are good. I think Harmony's probably slightly better for boss damage because you get the funnel off an ad a lot of the time, but I think Gem is slightly better for platforms though because of the burst damage, and for us at least, the platforms are where the majority of your limitations on progress are going to come along, so I recommend Gem for that boss. Kurog, I think you should play Arcane Harmony. There are extra targets up almost the entire fight, so the funnel is really good. On Broodkeeper, it kind of doesn't matter. It's not a great boss for Arcane. I would probably play Harmony if I was in the ad group, and probably whatever sim's higher for the boss, which is probably Gem. And then on Razageth, I recommend Gem because of the burst damage in the intermissions and on the shields. So in dungeons, I do not have any specific dungeon recommendations, but it really comes down to your comp. So you should play Gem for overall damage and Harmony for priority damage. The issue with DPS in keys is that the metric you care about in keys is not DPS, it's time saved. And if you do a lot of damage to a priority mob or like a high health target or a small pack, and you do lots of damage to, and somebody else does a lot of damage to like a really big pack with like mobs that don't have very much HP, those two things might save equal time in the dungeon, but the guy that did damage to the big pack is going to get higher on the meter, even though they kind of save the same amount of time. So that's something you can't really compare the DPS of them super easily like that. So Gem for overall damage, Harmony for priority damage. If you've got a high AoE damage comp already, you probably shouldn't play Gem. Most comps in the current meta will fit that bill. A lot of the really meta classes right now do really good AoE damage. So generally, a mage's role in the current meta is utility and priority damage. So in most comps, I think you should play Harmony because it's going to be better for that. Harmony also mitigates a few of its downsides in Mythic Plus, mainly the ramp, because you can pre-stack it on the last mob of a pack. Okay, that's me. Fairly quick video today. I hope it all made sense. The TLDR is it doesn't matter. Play what you're comfortable with. They both have minor advantages and disadvantages, but you'll find people who are having success in every form of content with both talents. If you like this video, subscribe, go check out my stream. We are doing Mythic Razageth progress right now, and then after that I'm going to be pushing for Mythic Plus title. Yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.